I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but they let John and I sneak in a day early and pick cherry pick what we wanted out of it. So
we're famous. Damn it.
We're beloved.
We're beloved.
We're beloved. Coming to you from the Beer to Whiskey Studios high atop Barley's Tap Room on Washington Street in downtown Greenville, South Carolina. I'm Russ Heaps, and welcome to this episode of Big Jon in 5. And that's where I get my good buddy here, Big Jon Richards. I have no clue why they call him Big Jon, but I think it's
a mystery.
It's a mystery, but I think it's also worth mentioning that he just finally got his certified Cicerone certification, and we're really proud of him for that and happy about that because it's good for all of us. But he's the beer whisperer here at Beer to Whiskey, and he picks.
Oh, I'm gonna whisper to this one.
Yeah, he picks a beer in these episodes. He picks a beer from one of Barley's 72 taps or 50 or 60 cans and bottles, which they also offer, and we sniff them, we sip them, we kibitz about them. Sometimes John tells us a little bit about the brewery, and sometimes he tells us a little bit about brewing history. John, what are we doing here?
Well, this is a very special beer to me. This is the beer that changed my life. This is
wow.
Yeah. This is a 6-year-old aged version of this beer that's already been aged. I'm going to kick off with the story of this beer. This is Avery Tweak, and it's a 17.5% barrel-aged version, coffee barrel-aged version of their beer called Mephistopheles. Mephistopheles is a big, heavy-duty Imperial Stout already at 17.5%, and then Tweak gets barrel-aged with coffee. And Mephistopheles carries those big fermentation flavors, the dates and figs, in addition to the big coffee and roast notes.
Right.
And then when you throw this in coffee barrels, throw coffee into anything for me, and I'm going to end up liking it more. I've all of the coffee versions of the Imperial Stouts. So we went down, several of us from Barley's, to the first Brewbible in Charleston while I still worked here. 3 or 4 lifetimes ago.
A long time.
Right. So Avery was at that first Brewbible, and they had brought this beer down, which at the time was called Meth Addict. This is based on Mephistopheles and has coffee in it.
Oh my.
Somebody or many people probably pitched a fit about that name.
I'm sure.
So they switched it to Tweak. And everybody was fine with that.
Well, it's not as clever,
right?
But it sort of says the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same language. It's out of the same book. But that year at Brewbible, it was one of the first 2 or 3 samples of beer that I tried, just because I was curious about what it was. And that very first sip, I went, "Oh man, yeah, this is what I want to do." And I was really getting into the beer scene here at Barley's and digging in my feet into becoming a beer guy. And I hit this beer and I went, I'm on the right track. This is what I want to do. And I've never forgotten it. And I went and looked for it for years and I could never find it again. And about, 5 or 6 years ago at Full House, I ran into this, one of the first releases of Tweak, and I went, wait a second.
Me remember something.
So I looked up its story and found out it was, in fact, the very same beer. And I've been after this beer ever since. And so here we have a 2016 that's been aged as part of Barley's cellar program. And this is the last one of the ones that I already had as part of my pre-game homework.
Well, I'm glad you put it in sort of a shot glass.
You're right.
It's because it is only 17.5%, but still.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's.
I think we should.
Let's dig into it here.
I can't wait for you to try this. There's so much good going on in here.
Texas Miss Lily.
Still get some of that fermentation fruit on the nose.
Yep. In fact,
Man.
that's pretty much all I'm getting on the nose.
Wait till you taste it. It really you get a lot of coffee, like bean up front, and then roast, and then some dark chocolate, and then as it starts to warm, and I'm going to start warming it with my hands immediately, because as it starts to warm,
Wow.
the dark chocolate comes really up front, and it smooths out even more than what it is as it's cold here. I sat here with one of these and probably spent an hour and a half with it because it just kept getting better.
It's funny, on the nose, I get that purple fruit thing, that date and the plums, that raisins kind of thing. But I don't get it on the tongue. On the tongue, I'm getting the coffee, and then I'm getting chocolate.
Yeah, that chocolate's bigger, even cold now, than I remember it from being. But then as it warms up, that dark chocolate really takes over the palate, and the fruit will almost be gone by the time this approaches room temperature. And it's so smooth.
This is a good beer.
This beer is so smooth that if you just put it in front of me, you might be able to convince me that it was a blended coffee drink. I don't taste any alcohol.
There's no alcohol in it. I'm with you on that. There's none of that.
None of that burn.
None of the burn. None of that
smell. The dragon breath or any of that.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Wow, that is so well done. And this is a Colorado.
Yeah, they're out of Boulder, Colorado, and Avery opened up in 1993. You get a 19 at the front of their age. They're about to turn 30 years old. Congrats to Adam and company out there. They moved into their big production facility in 2015, I think, and I think they're pretty much nationwide now.
Well, I know we see a lot of it here in Greenville.
Yeah,
so.
They've got a long relationship with the guys here at Barley's, and if we had Josh sitting here with us, he would start telling us stories about the early days with Adam and friends at the brewery.
That's where these Big Jon and 5s turn into Big Jon and 20s, is when Josh is here.
Yeah.
Normally they're like Big Jon and 8s, but when
Big
Josh
Jon and
is,
5 sounds better.
Yeah, Big Jon and 5 sound. At least it gets people to look at it instead of going, I can't watch something for 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20.
Right. Yeah, this is
like
very much that beer that then on that day changed my whole perception of what's possible.
Right.
You used to come into beer and you're used to Pilsners or you're used to American Macros, and you hit something like this, it's going to be like.
And this is a 15. What is that?
2016.
Oh, 2016.
So it's six years out of release.
We talk about it all the time. Anytime we get one of these out here, but Barley's has a really good aging program. They've got a room in back that they've got all kinds of stuff, barrels and bottles and all kinds of stuff sitting back there, cooling. It's in a cooled environment, chilled environment, but just aging away, and they're not afraid to pull it out. They don't hesitate to bring it out and put it on tap. And there's always one or two of that in that age range.
Yeah, we got to take home. Barley's had some 10-year-old barley wines back there. They did a sell-off a little while ago. Released some of that to the public, out into the wild, and Russ and I got our hands on some. And thank your local tap house or brewer for aging their own beers for you. Because aging beers can be a very complicated process, and is reserved for a very small cross section of what beer is. And when folks know how to do it right, man, you come up with some wonderful things like this.
And I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but they let John and I sneak in a day early and cherry pick what we wanted out of it. So
we're famous. Damn it.
We're beloved.
We're beloved.
We're beloved. At least in our own minds.
Right. Yeah.
Anything else?
This is good. I think we're gonna finish this up over the next hour or so, and I want to let these guys go. Try and find something similar, if not exactly the same.
Yep.
Cheers.
Avery Tweak.
Go get them.
So damn lucky. See you next time.